gonna hit the button. Button is hit. Monkey flip
Yeah,
the
the
switch.
button's hit.
I
Going
have.
right now.
We're going. We're goers. We goer. Nods as good as a wink to a blind bat. You know what I mean?
Know what I mean?
I have a different background. I'm in a different room. I have
Oh,
moved
yeah.
around. No, not that anybody cares.
Located. Okay.
Yeah,
that's
from one room of the house to the other room of a house.
sweet.
I'm slowly but surely getting everything distilled down into a couple rooms of stuff, so that at a moment's notice I can grab said stuff and bail.
And on to the next.
Yes, that's.
All right.
But I don't know if you have been aware of the Federal Reserve and loan rates and housing rates, and I know that's not something you're into. The economy. I know it's not something you like to talk about.
That's a good one, Gilbert.
The floor of the housing market has dropped out of the bottom. So it's likely there's rumors that the Fed is going to lower interest rates in the fall, maybe. So I'm anticipating that I will be in this house at least until the fall. Not where I wanted to be, but
Yeah.
only because of hurricanes. The house itself super comfy. I love having all the space for studio and to be able to push all the garbage into another room, so I'm not piled underneath it.
Fingers crossed that we won't get hit with anything this year, like Port Houston is right now.
Yeah, they are getting hammered. Evacuations, 2 deaths so far. No
Yeah.
bueno. No bueno, Texas.
Hell of a day.
Yeah. Glad it's somebody else. I don't want it here. But it did hit as a category 1, I believe. So I've been through up to a 3 here. And generally, since I'm far enough back from the ocean, when it hits as a 3, it's mostly just wind and a lot of rain. But if it hits a 5 at the beach, I'm not confident I wouldn't have damage.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. And with all that, was there anything in particular that you wanted to discuss today? Because I've got an idea if you don't. There's something that I've just been wanting to kick around in the back. Anything in particular for you? Want to talk? Anything?
I mean, there's lots. I know there's the whole Trump 2025 thing going on. And on the
Project
opposite side,
2025, right, yeah.
There's Biden. They're talking about a caucus coup or the DNC coup, where they're going to try and switch
caucus coup.
the caucus coup.
That sounds kind of messy.
Caucus coup.
I hope it's a lot of wipes.
Yes. So a lot of the Democrats have pulled support for Biden, so it might not be Biden on the ticket, which is kind of exciting. I don't like Biden either. So it's turning out to be as crazy a run-up to the election as 2024 is warranted.
Woo! Bread and circuses all around.
Yes. So that's been fun. Broke my toe.
Oh no, what happened?
Kicked the crap out of my bed frame, the box spring. Putting my bed in a different place. Yeah. Getting up, and I just, yeah. And so this was an old box spring, so it had boards on the outside of the board, so that it had lumps that would stick out. And that's what I kicked. And it's not even the first time that I broke this toe on that bed frame. Well, not that bed frame. I bought a new bed frame. I switched that one out, so I got a new metal one. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but a new metal bed frame. Broke my toe.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that, man. That's horrible.
AC went out yesterday again. A different AC went out at the center. Had that come in.
Oh,
had to replace the thermostat. Yep. So another $500 air conditioning fee, for service fee. 2024, man, is just one continuous kick in the crotch after another so far. And I'm about ready for it to just... If you're wanting to talk about something other than chaos, I'm down. Oh, battery low.
Well,
this is going to be a bit...
I don't know how non-chaotic it is. I'm just... there's just this little thing that's been kind of weighing in the back of my head because I feel like it has enormous implications to other things that have never just really been fleshed out by us or anybody else that I can really find.
Nobody talks about this. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody knew. Nobody knew how bad. What? Nobody knows.
People talked about it, but like I said, I don't think I heard any conversations with regards to the second, third, and fourth order implications of what it really meant. And for starters, you'd probably have to get to common ground on what it even really means. But a while back, and I don't even know if I can handily recall the details of this. But a while back, there was a bakery, and I want to put them in Denver, Colorado, or maybe Boulder, somewhere in Colorado, it seems. And they were Christian-oriented, this business, as in they happen to have their Christian beliefs. You know the story.
Right.
And,
I know the story.
And the trolls went in who thought, I'm going to have these Christian people make a cake that they don't want to make. And essentially they refused to serve them. Now,
were they trolls?
Well, okay. Let's not assume that they were trolls. That might have been.
I don't even remember if they were trolls. I mean, good on them. A great story, great content. If they were just we're talking about the gay couple that wanted a cake built, right? If it was just a gay couple that went into a local bakery and wanted a cake made for their wedding, that does set the tone slightly different.
Now, I think that what they wanted on their cake was something having to do with homosexuality or maybe even kink. But
sure, giant penises touching. Man, that's a cake. Yeah. Oh, sorry, giant penises.
But let's not even assume that for a second. Let's just assume that they didn't want anything offensive put on the cake, and that the person making the cake wouldn't have necessarily had to have been, violating their values in terms of that kind of free speech. And let's just assume that the guy was a total bigot, and he didn't want to make a cake for gay people because he doesn't believe in gay marriage.
That's it's a stretch for Christianity, I know, but okay.
I know, but so now I'm going to go ahead and ask the should question, the should word question, the should. Should the cake decorator be compelled to bake the cake for the gay couple if he doesn't want to?
I don't know. I didn't know at the time. Well, let me change that. I think this is one of the positions that I've kind of shifted on a little bit, but only minor. It's all about tone in 2024. At the time, gay marriage was new, super new.
Comparatively, yeah.
There was a ton of discrimination. There were still gay people being hung up on fences and left to die. That was kind of around that same time.
I suppose there might have been a little of that. Yeah, I don't have any
a
of that
little.
on my radar,
there is. There was a high school student that was famously tied up to a fence and left to die. So I'm not talking about generalized thing. I'm talking about there's a specific people, gay people, that get murdered because they're gay. Man, it's not. There's people that get murdered because they're a religious type or because they're a color. Being gay gets you murdered regularly in countries. In some countries, it is the actual law. Sharia
in other
law.
Countries, it's much worse. Yes, much worse.
Will get you openly murdered by the government.
Yeah.
I think Trump and Project 2025 is heading that direction because they already want to either put in jail or murder women that get abortions. That's already their premise. And the 2025 thing, so your thing does come down to the 2025 because it's very current right now. should a
Perhaps
couple be forced
wasn't
to...
the direction I was totally going with it, but
Yeah.
carry on.
So that is happening.
Mostly,
they're trying to make that happen here. They're trying to make that law
right.
here against the queer enlightenment that we have here at the moment. Project 2025 is all about rolling that back to conservative Christian Sharia. All of it.
I get that.
All of it.
We know that there's levels of bigotry here with regards to gayness
Right,
or anything
so
you want to have bigotry towards.
The law forcing a private company to service an individual or a couple that bugs them. Now, the other thing to remember is I am in that kind of arena. I own a...
Well, I'm talking to you about it.
I own a licensed massage center.
And you need to have the right to refuse service to anyone.
I need to have the right to refuse service, but not to anyone.
For
Because
cause.
we don't have that protections. Because the thing, if you have a business, you or a corporation, and we are incorporated, so with a corporation, the reason you get that is you get special privileges, some special privileges, for signing that. But with those privileges comes the oversight that government facilities will ensure that you're not endangering the public. So
Okay.
mine's a little bit different than theirs. Their a bakery is mostly being regulated to not poison the public with their food because they're making food products. My
And that
business
will be
is
on,
being...
on the county level. County level is going to be the one handling the inspection of a food service type of outfit. I'm guessing that
normally. And
for
same
yours,
here. We got state and county.
I was going to say you're probably heavily regulated
Because we're
by
in the
state
medical
with
field.
regards to-
Right.
Yes.
So I've got government way up my ass.
But it boils down to the question of should anyone have the right to refuse service to anyone for any reason at all, even if that reason is bigoted?
I don't know. I can see where, that's why I was getting back to the 2025 thing and the cultural, the other countries where the whole country is bigoted. Because in a country that it's against the law, and again, you cannot have things written on your cake. You can have a generic cake and write it yourself if it comes down to that. So you're not going to starve to death. But in a country that can essentially shun you, banish you, if you're gay, and then all corporations or all companies, everyone that has a business has the right to refuse to service you, and the whole neighborhood stops selling you, or takes away your right to survive, that gets weird. At the time of
Sure.
the cake thing, there was political pressure to make sure that they made the cake. I'm going around and around because I just don't know. There's different circumstances. Context matters. And as a policy, if your policy is that it is okay to be gay and marriage is legal and something that should be just accepted by the public, I can see making a stand or making an example out of a large case or a popular case. No, I don't think they should have been forced to. I don't. I don't like to say that, because not pushing authority against bigots, not drawing a line against bigotry moves it forward. cancer loves other cancer, and they do gather together. It does. Hate will and bigotry and isolationists, and you get a small area and they will start to reflect each other. And especially with queer issues. Is that the right word? Queer issues? I think I'm not going to say
sure,
LGBTQ plus T for trans. Queer. I think queer is the appropriate term. Trying
it's hard to stay up on a leg bit anyway.
Trying to be inclusive, and my words don't work good, so I'm going with queer. Something as culturally toxic as the queer community is in general, because of bigotry and ignorance and all the stuff that goes with that. Some protections, they become a protected group. So do I think a protected group should have protections so that they can use the community without repercussions? Yes. You see where there's a little nuance here? So, no, I don't think corporations should be forced to service someone that they don't agree with, the right to refuse a service. But at the same time, if it's a protected group because of the danger inherent with that group, I think there does need to be some. So I don't... No and yes is my answer. No and yes.
That's pretty fancy move there, fence rider.
Thank you,
Ryder.
Thank you, thank you. Because what if it was Jews? Jews aren't a skin color. Jew is a preference, right?
Okay.
You can be white and be Jew. You can be black and be Jew. You can be.
It's just a religion. You'd be treating it as a religion at that point, right?
Right. So if you're a Jew and the neighborhood that you're in refuses to sell you any goods or work with you or do anything, I think you should have some recourse, but I don't know how extensive that should be or what.
So here's the hypothetical. Here's what it boils down to. The dude's in business to bake cakes in this case, right? But he could at any time say, you know what? This is just too much headache for me. I'm out, and close his doors.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Is he if he does that right after the gay Jew walks in, right?
Right.
It says, could you bake me up a gay Jew wedding cake for me? Because me and my gay Jew buddy are going to get married. And he goes, nope, you know what? That's it. That's the last straw. You're out. I'm out. I'm closing my doors. Is he allowed to do that?
Yes.
Is he allowed to open them up?
That's treating everyone after that fairly.
Is he able to open them up the very next day and say, you know what? I've cooled down. I'm going back into business. I'm going to just carry on business. I'm going back into business. Everybody, I'm making cakes again. Awesome.
No. That's obvious manipulation. That's an obvious kick in the can. That's obvious. Yeah. Because then the gay Jew walks back in. I'm so glad you're back in business. Will you bake my cake? I'm closing my doors. Exactly.
So it's clear.
That's just monkey. That's monkey fuckery, and we understand what they're doing.
Now I get that. So here's the question. Obviously, it doesn't have to really be against the law at that point. Somebody who did that would probably alienate 95% of the rest of their legitimate business. Everybody would be like, oh, he's really just too bigoted. I don't want to go to have my cake.
You're wrong. See, this is where you're wrong. This is your fantasy of the market. This has always been where you're wrong about the invisible hand that makes everything fair in the market. And that you vote with your dollars, and if people that don't get their dollars shrivel up and go, oh, I'm sorry, that doesn't work. Bigotry will be supported by bigotry. You have
how many bigots are out there?
Right? Lots. Have you been in the fucking country? Have you watched the news at all?
What's the percentage? What's the percentage of bigots in the general
Bare
population?
minimum 1/3. Bare minimum from what I've seen, about 1/3.
Okay, so let's assume that you're right. So here's the big question: could our bakery now survive on 33% of the market share for their product and service?
Right. See,
really,
again, this is where you're missing it. you're making people logical and following the market and market values. People are not logical, they're emotional. Culture is not logical.
That's why I'm.
It's
That's
emotional.
why I'm thinking people would be going. I'm not going to shop
They would
there.
not.
They're emotional.
They would not, because you could have a bigoted Christian, right? Pretty. We understand the monkey fuckery, who the bad ones are, right?
Okay.
I'm going to just assume that we know a Nazi is bad. Can we start with that? Nazi's bad.
We can certainly start with that.
Can we draw at least that line? Nazi's bad. So if you have a bigoted Christian cake maker, and he says, "Well, I'm going to be a total bigot. I'm going to come out in the open and say I'm not going to service Jews, or I'm not going to service queers. Let's go. I'm not going to service queers, because that's the thing." You're going to have a lot of Christians that go, "Well, I'm not a bigot. I'm still going to, but I understand his position as a Christian because the Bible says that. So I'm going to have to support his opinions as a Christian. Not that I agree." So it's at that point you can see where that Christian's not a bigot, but they're going to go to the bigot because they're a Christian bigot and they could understand and support. So that's where you get the centrist supporting the extremist.
And you think there's still enough market share for him to survive like that?
I think that's at least 60% of the market. Yes.
Okay. Because
bigot supporters. I think bigot supporting is, I still go to Home Depot. I know they're bigots. I don't go to Chick-fil-A only because I don't like their chicken. I know that's a sin. But generally, it doesn't matter. I'm an atheist. I don't want to go to any Christian, but guess what? I got to.
So
because it's 80% Christian in the country.
Around the block from this guy is another bakery who is doing their best to compete, and let's just say that they offer a pretty comparable value at a comparable price to this guy. But they are totally inclusive. They're going to be, we will bake our cake for anybody who walks in the door. We have no qualms about it. We love everybody. Are they not going to be able to outcompete this guy? He's working on the market share of bigots, and the person is okay to support a bigot.
Right.
And
George, again, trying to make black and white, people do the logical thing, and that bigotry is bad, and you're assuming they would do what you would do, and they will not. One thing that's been in the back of my head, churning over and over and over and over again, is I need you to understand and know that I understand. And one of the things that frustrates me the most about you is you think you're normal. You think the way you think is the way other people think. As a woman trapped in a man's body that was indoctrinated into Mormonism as a child, and then grew out of that, sort of, and is dealing with the constant trauma of being who you are, you think other people are as cut and dry in their decisions about who they are. They are not. You do not think like everyone else.
Well,
so when you're going, well, the market, if we have two equal businesses right beside, and one's bigoted and one's not, surely the one that's not bigoted and more inclusive would include more of the. They do not. It does not ever work like that.
I don't assume that people think like me, because clearly if people did think like I did, there would be more conversations that are, along the lines of what I talk about, and it seems like the
market would be glorious and glittery and awesome if it worked the way you think it should and does. If people worked the way you think they should, the world would be awesome and logical.
It's not that. It
not.
Really boils down to, it's kind of like studying that one molecule, that one oxygen molecule, if you prefer. I don't know, whatever molecule you want. You can't really predict that one oxygen molecule, and I might be that oxygen molecule, and I'm totally unpredictable. But that one oxygen molecule also, it isn't going to make predictions about all the other oxygen molecules around it, because they all behave way differently. But you get all of them together, and maybe you put them in a contained area where there's a tiny bit of pressure. Suddenly, as a collective, as a group, they act very predictably. You can
Right.
measure the exact, amounts of pressure, whatnot. So that's really the study of populations
Okay.
of large amounts of people. I'm not expecting huge bodies of people to think exactly like I do, but I do expect large bodies of people to kind of behave like large bodies of people.
Sure, you're wrong. Now, the other thing I can I can point you at, we directly experienced this. We had a business in a town full of bigots. We were, by all measure, a better service than all the others. But all the bigots, except for a few because they had to, because of whatever situation, because the other people couldn't do it, they went to the other agencies and not us because they thought we were queer and because they knew I was an atheist. So we were atheist queers that dressed funny. We had a better service. I have absolutely no doubt when a call came in that wanted a property searched, we fucking searched the shit out of it and did it right. Right? I like to think at least you knew what you were doing and I followed along, but we failed because of bigotry. Now, let's go down the line again. We also did some VR pods. We've had this experience of bigotry over and over and over our entire lives. And now you're going, no, bigots will go to another service because that bigot's more bigoted than their bigotry. So they're going to go, they're not. The bigots are going to huddle together and squeeze out the other douche. We're the other douche.
Well,
we've already been through this, and I don't know why you think that everyone is logical when you've already experienced the bigotry firsthand over and over.
Okay, so let's cover a little bit of history real quick, of our history. The VR pods, I don't know if I'd chalk that up to bigotry. Hypocrisy, yes, maybe. That was weird. But that wasn't a really excellent example. And to be totally fair, I didn't really go about that the right way with regards to the city. The city who was going to shut us down. Now, if I had tried to go about it the right way, they probably would have said,
was it the city
no.
telling people not to come in? Was
No,
it
no,
the city telling people to just walk by?
It was the city that shut us down.
It was the people. Right. But before that, the people had already decided we're not it, and they're not coming to us. Now you're right. It's a different scenario, but it's bigotry and hypocrisy in our face. I think we got traveler rule number 7. Never try to cash in on hypocrisy. We don't follow that. But that is a traveler rule. Our business failing or not getting enough business, even though I think we were a superior service, is exactly that. We weren't serving gay cakes, but we were serving beefcakes. Yeah! So
now, to be fair about the title company, I feel like what really just kind of knifed that up was the fact that my heart wasn't in it. It was not my passion, as it were. And when I got the call to go back and join the band, that's when it really was like, I'm totally done. And I was already kind of on that sliding slope because
we had already struggled with bigotry and hypocrisy up until that point.
I was getting jerked around by that chick.
That too. I'm talking about the business. Oh, yeah. I remember.
So, but the point I'm making about the business is just that if we had said, it's the only thing we got going, we're going to stick this out, we probably would have made it work. And by make it work, I mean if we could have made it work for as long as we wanted to make it work. It wouldn't have been forever. Eventually it would have been like, you know what, but really this isn't us. We're not cut out for this. We're tired of this. Ready for the next thing. And that's kind of what I feel like really ended it. I was just ready for the next thing earlier than I had thought I would be ready for the next thing.
We were made ready for the next thing. I got home.
That might be true.
I got home on Gas Bunny from a jar of coins. That's how well we were doing as a business.
We would have
Tail between my legs, I ran.
Sorry about that.
I know you. No, it was a fantastic experience. I don't know why you don't seek, because it was your hometown, or one of your places you grew up also, right? So you had some attachment to it, and I wonder how much some Stockholm syndrome.
Oh no, we froze up, man. Are we still registering? Yes, we are still registering. Okay, so what are we at? Man, that ought to be working. I don't know what's up. Come back to me. Well, dang it, man. So just to carry this on by myself for a second, if this is even working, because I don't know if it is. The Stockholm Syndrome thing, that we'll have to apply very carefully. I think there's, at the very least, I would say that in order to diagnose Stockholm Syndrome, you'd probably have to be, I don't want to say credentialed. I don't really buy into credentials so much, but qualified. And at some point, I think the person that you're thinking is Stockholm Syndrome probably needs to kind of, at some point, I don't know. I mean, can you just sit there and splash somebody with the label of Stockholm Syndrome and a syndrome is a collection of symptoms. Do I really exhibit the collection of symptoms that's associated with Stockholm Syndrome? As in, I fall in love with my tormentor, or at least sympathize with my tormentor. If that were the case, I would probably have to say that there's a Stockholm Syndrome spectrum, and we all fall on it in some place or another. Everyone collectively on the planet falls into it in some place or another, and context matters a lot. So we would all fall into it in some context or another, or some situation or another, to some degree or another. And I don't know, at that point, I just don't know how really valuable it is to even use the term. Because I feel like to try to use it to gaslight me, or to gaslight a person, I should say, to use it to gaslight a person, oh, what you're experiencing is just Stockholm Syndrome, you're really a victim. That's probably not copacetic. Hey, are you back?
Yeah, I think we're back.
I was talking the whole time for kicks, but
oh, good. It's still recording. It's started over.
I wasn't sure if it was capturing. Okay. So anyway,
I don't know if it is or not.
Hopefully you'll get a chance to review what I just said, because it was kind of hilarious. Maybe not. Anyway, I still feel like we could have made a go of the title company at the end of the day. We were going through a slump, surely, but we would have cleared that. We would have made it sustainable. We would have made it run as long as we wanted to do it, and
sure,
that was really all.
Now, yeah, in a perfect world, the answer would be no. Of course, the more righteous, inclusive business would work. We don't live there. we also have people that will sacrifice themselves for a cause that most other people know is wrong. Take the January 6th prisoners of war, or whatever. What are they supposed to be? What are they called again? Whatever. They did something stupid, and they found out.
Okay.
Okay. The people in charge went, "We don't like that. You suffer the consequences." Right.
Yes.
But they believed it enough to risk sacrificing themselves. You can have Christians believe it enough to sacrifice themselves and to slaughter whole other nationalities because of their belief in an invisible wizard up in the sky that cries when wieners touch. So they're clearly not rational or right, but they're willing to sacrifice themselves to the cause. And you thinking everybody's going to be rational and right and not be bigoted, or even recognize bigotry as bigotry, or they don't recognize bigotry as something positive, because most bigots, I assure you, like people that are bigoted in the same way. Racists enjoy seeing racists be able to do racist things. That's their group. So, Christians love to be able to see other Christians doing Christian things. And I know it's weird that I'm connecting.
Oh, no.
What?
So can you think of a business of any size? Can you think of a business of any size that has survived for, let's just say, any good length of time to suggest that their business model is sustainable, that is overtly bigoted as part of their brand?
Chick-fil-A.
Other than a religion. Chick-fil-A. Okay, that's probably a pretty good example.
Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby.
Or how about the corporations of the church? Any church corporation. Or any... See, this is why I think that's the no but yes. The mechanic I go to has a Jesus fish, and he praises the Lord openly.
Okay.
Christian. If he knew I was atheist, I would not take my car there. I wouldn't trust it. So bigotry is stronger than openness. Bigotry has a line. Openness is wishy-washy. That's one of the major issues I have, or the major issue I have with the politics, especially in America, where you have the right-wing Republican Christian Party. Bam! They know their goddamn line. They know what they're doing, right? The Democrats are kind of, we want to do corporate stuff, but we also want to make sure that people get their cakes. So it's wishy-washy. The left, and there's no left, I should say the center-right is super wishy-washy. The far right knows what they want and won't accept anything else. So every time there's a step taken, the right wing pushes it right, and the left wing goes, okay. The left wing takes a step, the right wing pushes it right. Okay. And it just keeps going that way politically. Now, culturally, fuck off. Culturally, it's different. Culturally, we're moving left. So we've got two things going on at the same time. Politically, we're moving right. Authoritarianly, we're moving right. Culturally, we're moving left.
You don't agree with the statement that politics is downstream of culture?
It depends on when you're taking the picture. There's ups and downs. This is also something I made a lot of videos on in the past, and I think we've talked about several times. When the bigotry and ignorance of religion dies or is dying, a dying animal fights harder than ever. So I also do believe that these are the screams of a dying religion. These are the screams of a dying culture. The problem is, sometimes the dying animal wins. Sometimes the animal that's dying and backed into a corner Christianity, Nazis at this point, the animal that's in the corner is able to kill what's trying to kill them. The animal's still going to die. It's mortally wounded. Christianity is mortally wounded, but sometimes it's going to take down the offender with it.
And so then what's left?
Salted earth, man.
Okay, so
fire and brimstone.
So you feel like that there's a possibility that this could all end with the final end.
I think there's a possibility of that even without Christians, even without bigotry, even without human conflict. That's in a perfect world we could still end horribly.
Let me go back to pull on just a real quick thread. When you mentioned that you'd take your car to a particular mechanic who is God-fearing, and if you worry that if he found out you're atheist, he might be like, now I'm just gonna break his dipstick or whatever.
Well, I don't think he would touch my dipstick except in private, but yes.
You get the idea that he would do something underhanded because he could get away with it. But if that were to happen, would he not fear that you might be like, well, crap, I'm gonna go give him a negative review on Google and anywhere else I can, and for all intents and purposes, in your own small and humble way, hurt his brand? Wouldn't he be worried about doing that? Isn't that enough of an incentive for him to go, well, I don't like that he's an atheist, but I'm not going to, bust his gas cap just because of that, because I'm worried about, I want to maintain my brand as a good brand. Would that not be enough incentive for him to do the right thing? Or do you think he...
Yes and no. The other thing that's frustrating is you want an algorithm that says yes or no.
No, it's okay.
There's never yes or no. There are...
Just explain it to me all the way.
There are 8 billion monkeys on this planet. Will some of those monkeys that are religious be honorable regardless of who? Will some bigoted Christian monkeys make the gay cake? Absolutely. There are great people that hold religious convictions. There are also a number of shit people that hold religious convictions. So what people are gambling on is there's enough good Christians to outweigh the bad Christians. And the sad truth is, I mean, there are some, I'm sure there are some, I've seen them, I know there are some amazing people that are religious. But there are a lot more sheep. There's a lot more of the Christian flock that's going to just go with the flow, even if that flow is a bunch of blowhards or an orange buffoon that they know doesn't believe in them, but he's allowing them to get away with their Christian bigotry. So there's all shades of gray and shit brown. And the idea that the market is more powerful than monkey beliefs. The market is made from monkey beliefs.
So is that really the point of the argument right there? Is that I think that the market is stronger than monkey beliefs, and you believe that monkey beliefs are stronger than the market?
I think the market is monkey beliefs, and yes, I don't.
Okay, I agree with that completely.
Yeah, I think. Here's another scenario where we're in. There's a gay cake maker.
Okay.
There's two cake makers. One is bigoted and has openly refused, and they're in some hot water. The other one down the street says, "Man, no, come here. We're going to bake your cake." But the problem is, there's the Calvary Chapel in between them. Which one's going to survive? The one that says, no, we like the queers. We're going to put penises on your cake. The other one that's next to the Calvary Chapel says, no, we are God-fearing, and we're not going to tolerate that sin. Which cake maker survives? The all-inclusive one or the bigoted one? This isn't hard.
Well, it does boil down to, quite simply, it will boil down to what percentage of people are staunchly God-fearing people now at that point who would then say, You don't have to be.
You can be a soft Christian. You can be a wishy-washy.
Or that.
No, I don't want to be bigoted against that cake maker. I don't. But I also don't want any of my Christian extremists to see me going there.
Perfect. So
you're tainted even going there.
That's fine. Wherever they fall on the staunch spectrum, whether it's staunch or staunch pretending, or just barely not staunch, but just kind of whatever.
Or just don't want to be seen with it.
What percentage of the population is that Christian?
80%. 80%.
You think it's that high? That would not suggest for a second that religion is dying.
No. Yes, it does. It can still. So that's the problem with numbers and what you're experiencing, and the you can have a dying religion, just like climate change. You can have a global warming event, and you can still have winter. You can still have ice in a global warming event. So, like with climate change, global warming, if it was 100 years ago in the winter, negative 100 degrees, that's cold, man. After the Industrial Revolution, it only gets to negative 50 degrees. That's cold, man, but it's warmer by 50 degrees than it was before the Industrial Revolution. I'm just generalizing big, obnoxious numbers, right?
I get you.
So even though it's warming and it's warmer, it still gets cold. So even though there's less religion, there's still a giant amount of religious people that are not as religious. They're softer religious. So there's a bigger squish. But you get that same charismatic, obnoxious finger pointer that is going to shame a Christian. They're going to shame a more squishy Christian if they're seen going to the queer baker. They're going to get called out. And so they don't have to be more Christian, or they don't even have to be Christian. You can be atheist pretending to be Christian, say as a business owner that doesn't want to get fucking trounced by Calvary Chapel if they find out you're an atheist and they go somewhere else. So you pretend you be a soft Christian, or you pretend to be spiritual, so you don't have your shit crushed. So yes, you can have less religion year by year and it still not look any different.
So here's the next question then, with regards to this situation. Here's our very secular bakery, and here comes our gay Jews. Walk in, please bake us a gay Jew cake for our wedding. And he goes, okay, sure, why not? But because he doesn't really want to support a gay Jew wedding, he makes the cake horrible. And it still passes inspection. It's edible. It's not a bad cake in terms of it's not going to poison anybody, but it's also the kind of cake that's just like, oh my God, you're not going to have good memories of your wedding day.
Why did you
just
pay
because
for
of this cake?
Why did you go there? Because they have such bad reputation as making food.
Except for that they don't. Normally they make it great.
But they
don't. Just for those guys.
So
just for those guys.
Monkeys,
just for those guys, they broke their dipstick.
Yeah.
Is kind
monkeys
of
monkeys smell fuckery. We're really good at it. That's also one of the problems we're having, this wealth income inequality issue, where people that are poor are getting more and more upset with people that are rich. It's not because they're rich. It's because we understand as primates the amount of fuckery, and we can only handle a certain amount before we lose our monkey shit, right?
Okay.
So that's what's happening largely now. But they don't want to support the gay Jew. So they make
and in fact
cake.
they're very safe, because if they've already got support from their Calvary Chapel base, and
right.
Here comes the gay Jews going. They go on the review sites going, man, our cake really sucked. Everybody that loves the baker's going to go, we love their cake, so it must be you. The problem is you.
So they will know what the cake maker is doing. Yes, it's very hard to.
Why wouldn't the cake maker do that? Or would he? If we're talking monkey fuckery here,
don't they? Don't they?
Okay. So
that
now,
that mechanic up the street, that's where we're starting to get in an overlap here.
right. So here comes the next question. Knowing that we know that the secular bakery is going to possibly do something like that and have no negative repercussions because they've got a strong base of people who believe that if there's a problem, the problem is you, not them. Why would the gay Jews go there to have their cake baked in the first place? Why would they go?
Well, if they're not part of the church, they wouldn't even know it. They're going to a bakery. They're seeing the reviews. When you go online and order something on Amazon and you see 4.5 stars, are you going, are they Christian?
Right.
If you see a couple reviews, so there's so much out there. There's so many dollars. See God, capitalist God, is raining dollars everywhere. It's hard for an individual to tell.
Okay.
It's
so
just
at the point,
overwhelming.
I get you. So at the point that the baker says then, no, I would rather not bake you the cake, why would they choose to push the issue?
To expose bigotry would be one of them.
To expose bigotry at the risk of their own wedding being nasty? That sounds like a sacrifice that is comparable to a J6er going to jail.
Yeah, but for an honorable reason, as far as they're concerned.
Well, that's all very subjective.
Right, and you're thinking people wouldn't do that? We already know people do that. We already know with the J6ers, with protesters that are willing to go to jail, with all the things that people are willing to sacrifice their freedom for. We already know they do that on both ends of the spectrum and center.
So wouldn't it just be better to then allow the cake baker to not bake the cake? Because we could avoid a bunch of crap if we said you're not compelled to bake the cake legally. I mean, legally, you're not legally compelled.
Right.
You can shut your doors and send them packing to the next bakery. If you really want the loss of business, you can say no. Is it not better? Is it?
We just went over that. They won't take a damage. They will get more business for openly going against the sin that the general culture supports more. So you're talking about the protections of a targeted group, of a vulnerable group. The vulnerable group is always going to be vulnerable, regardless of whether or not bigots are allowed to be bigoted.
But we're also talking about a vulnerable group in this hypothetical scenario willing to sacrifice their wedding to expose bigotry.
Right. Just as gay pride was. Do you know what kind of sacrifice the queer community took when they were willing to go out in public, show their face, and dress as they feel? They were sacrificing their lives. Anybody that went out and recognized one of those people and recognized where they work, they were sacrificing their job. So yes,
potentially
people do that. People do that every day. Still doing. There's people that go to gay clubs today knowing that some bigot could get really upset and want to sacrifice himself for the greater God and slaughter all the queers. So you have two groups.
And then be happy to go to jail. Yeah.
You have two, or to be happy to die. So you have two groups.
Some cases,
one vulnerable group, one the powerful bigoted group, the church. One's willing to murder, one's willing to die. Guess which side wins? Guess which side needs more protected? The one willing to die or the one willing to murder? If you're willing to murder and the other side's willing to die, the only ones left are going to be the ones willing to murder. So that's why
a long way from baking a cake to murder.
Well, I'm having to show some extremes because the baking the cake, you're getting into the wishy-washy, oh, why would somebody do that? Or wouldn't it be better if? Sure, if it worked the way you think it should work, it would be better to let bigots be bigots. Just like I'm not for banning MAGA hats. I want them to tattoo MAGA on their forehead so I know what the fuck they're thinking. Nothing. So I want to know how to recognize them. I think it's great that they wear MAGA hats, fly upside down flags, have giant Trump trucks. I appreciate that, and I don't want any of that banned because I want to recognize the fuckery right up front. So if it worked the same way with protected groups, that would be awesome. It just never works like that, and you're always trying to squeeze one end of a balloon and hoping that the bulge doesn't happen where you don't want it. And man, there's just no bulges that aren't going to happen today because we're so fired up. We're a creature, we're a species that evolved brains designed to sit in silence for most of our lives, hunt and suffer and die. And now we can sit with a constant noise. Every one of our thoughts is either getting verified, pumped up, or broken down. And I love it, and I'm starting to choke on it. So other people that didn't grow up online or on the internet or loving this, man, they've got to be freaking out. And I think that's the chaos. There's no way we have chaos and then asking, gosh, should we? And I know it's important. Should we regulate corporations to not be fuckers? And I think we need to. But the winner gets to decide who does that, doesn't it? And so I always come back to, well, gosh, we're screwed. Maybe AI will do it better.
So here's the next question, because it gets better. Are you ready? I'm not done with you yet.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
What time is it? We got time. Okay, good.
I got time.
Here's our secular bakery, and our gay Jews walk in.
Okay, you keep saying secular bakery. I think I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Isn't secular means that they believe in God or have a religion?
No. Secular means you're non-sect.
Sect. Yeah. I thought it was sect, as in you have a sect. Did I get that reversed?
Secular.
I hope I didn't screw that up. I would
denoting attitudes after other things that have no religious or spiritual base. Right. No. Right. No. Secular is non-religious. Secular means
secular is
you're
no religion?
open to both. Right. You're open to both. Secular is the good guy.
Yeah. I did screw that up.
Yeah. Secular
so
is
non-secular.
Good.
Okay.
So bigotry. Bigoted is bad. Go with bigoted. The bigots are bad.
So here's our non-secular. Well, we could say it's bigoted, but I don't want to attribute something negative to something that might be. By
definition, their book, the Christian book, has bigoted rules by God in it. You can't get around it because it was written by God. You can't change it. You can't update it. You can't brush it over because God said it. So it is by nature bigoted. If you're a soft Christian, you're also a bigoted Christian because you're going against the written down word of God. No matter what the word was or when he said it, it's still the word of God. So if you're a Christian and you're not listening to God, you're a bigot against your own religion. You're a sinner, which is great. I'm all for it. Man, sin like mad. But religion, by its definition, what we have, Christianity, you have an established religion, is bigoted by nature because you're excluding anyone that is not with you.
Okay, so what conditions have to exist for somebody to not be bigoted about anything? Or
you
does
can't
everybody
get
fall
that. You're always going to be bigoted about something because we're
so
humans.
Everybody on the planet is bigoted to some degree or another on some kind of a spectrum, and it's all contextual.
Right. The only difference with religion is it's codified into rules by God.
Okay, I'll buy that for $1.
Makes it a little different.
Okay, as long as we admit that everybody has got the ability to be bigoted to some degree or another in the right context. So here's our non-secular bakery, bigoted if you want.
Non-secular bakery.
And two gay Jews walk in. They say, "Please bake us a wedding cake." And in his head, the baker's going, "I don't really want to bake these guys a cake, but I don't want to just come right out and say, 'F you, get out of my shop.'" So instead, he says, "I'll be happy to bake you a cake, and I'm gonna make it awesome. You gotta believe I'm gonna make it awesome because I want good reviews. But the price is gonna be $1 million, or what, compare whatever." And essentially prices it so high that it is prohibitively expensive for them, and they go,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, thank you.
That's
Okay, we
already
didn't know it was going to be
illegal.
that much."
That's already illegal.
How is that illegal?
Price gouging. You
Okay.
are discriminating against a protected group by charging them more than everyone else. That's already illegal. You can't have a gas station go, "Oh, they're black. I'm going to charge them more because we know how they are." You can't do that. So that's already illegal. Corporations are already following those rules. Or
So
not.
again, with the if he's not allowed, if price gouging to some noticeable degree, because you got to know that sort of thing happens anyway.
Right, but it's not codified. You can't write it down or be openly accepting of bigotry. You just can't, because they will take a mile. You give it an inch, it takes a mile. So you just can't.
So where I was going with that is, if he was unable to do it to the degree that he's already doing it, because like I said, it already happens. Price gouging, as you define it, already happens. It is a thing.
Yes.
I do it.
Yes, sure. As a massage therapist, I have been abnormally busy when some skeezy person came in and I didn't want to work on them. I'm going, "Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I got booked up." Dude, done it. I am in the corporate world and I had to touch people, the public, for a living. Yeah, I get the skeezy and not wanting to work on someone that you are biased against for whatever reason. I'm not above it. I wallow in it. It can't be codified and allowed in law.
So we come back to the question of, is he allowed to just close his doors and not be in business anymore? Now, we've answered that one with, I guess, yes, right?
Yes,
but
as
then
long
he's
as you're
not allowed to
doing
open his doors the next day and say, "I've changed."
Yeah, no monkey business. We all understand monkey business, and that's like mafia stuff, and you just can't let that fly.
Again, if you think that if are we saying that it is absolutely against the law for him to do that, or against state regs, or it would just be bad business model?
Well, see, what you're getting at is one of the reasons we're where we're at. We are cheater little monkeys. We like what we like. We don't like what we don't like. And the things that we like, we want to take from other people because we like them. Or we want them better for them to give it to us. That would be awesome. And if there is a rule that's saying you can't do something, the cheater little monkeys are going to figure it out. Is we all know the rules of the road, right? We all know road law. We have our driver's license. We took a test. We all know cheater monkeys that go on the side and cut out people and do all sorts of stuff. It's illegal. They still do it. Gosh, I guess rules for the road should not exist because monkeys still do it. That's not how anything works. If you go because there's cheaters or because there's bigots, well, no law works. The gun thing works is the same way. If only the criminals get guns, well, we can't have any rules about guns because we want everybody to be able. It doesn't work with cheater monkeys. We know we're not. You're trying to get around it. You're trying to skirt it and find an algorithm or some base that we can go, no, this is always the way it is. We can't do anything to corporations because they are holy and they are right no matter what, because the invisible hand makes sure they're right.
That's not at all where I'm going with that. I'm really going towards a black market.
We already have that. We already have a black market. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right.
And we should always aspire to be the best we can. And we should try and stop the worst of our actions. And we're never going to get there. It's always going to be a battle.
Well, that's very pessimistic.
That's the optimistic.
That we're never going to get rid of
is way worse.
That we're never going to get rid of the monkey fuckery.
Well, we're not. No, that's optimism. We're not. But see, that's one of the things with we're getting into the game theory or the gaming culture there, where you're trying to make a video game and you got gamers that want to cheat. I don't know why. For me, growing up as a gamer, the fun part of the game is playing the game by the rules and still winning.
What if you get your ass kicked consistently? What if you get your ass kicked so consistently that
you put it on easy mode?
Okay. So you're not talking about head to head with a human player then,
right? So right, because that doesn't work. If you have, and that's where the cheater comes in. You can have head to head with, because that Star Citizen. That's one of the things they're trying to balance it so that one ship isn't the meta, or one weapon isn't the meta, so that everybody has the one machine gun. They're trying to make so everybody has different stuff that works differently depending on the situation. Right. So they're trying to make it as balanced for 1-to-1. If it was just a PVE, a player versus the environment, the game developer cheats all the time with that. They could just raise or lower the hit points of the bad guy, raise or lower your hit points, and they don't even have to tell you because they're just trying to do a story and trying to make the gamer feel better, right? That's the PVE. But with PvP, that's always where the contention is. When monkeys are fighting each other, or when monkeys have to get together, that's where the fuckery occurs. A monkey by himself is harmless. It's the group of motherfuckers that gets scary. And then when you're trying to make something fun for all, you're always going to have the monkey that goes, I know it's fun, but I really like the banana. And I think if I do this, I can get more of it. I'm going to get stink eye from this guy, but I'm going to punch him in the face if he says anything. So he's going to let me. Soft Christian is going to let the bigoted Christian do fuckery and not say anything. The soft Christian is going to let the Catholic priest fuck a boy and get relocated and go, well, I guess they took him somewhere outside the environment, so it's safe now. So you get, it's the monkeys that are soft, it's the monkeys that are strong, it's all of us are the problem. And we're trying to find a way in society.
You're describing a social hierarchy.
Yeah. Welcome to Monkeyville. This is Monkeyville. I don't see. That's why I'm always so pessimistic, really, about the future, because it only takes one monkey to fuck up when you have thermonuclear weapons, or an AI that can cause the amount of damage, or a 3D printer that can make a virus. It only takes one monkey, but it takes millions of monkeys every day keeping us safe to not have it go off the rails. So as far as an optimistic view, we are doing amazing. Man, monkeys keeping the shit on the rail going forward. I can't even believe we're here. It's hard to believe.
I mean, do you feel like, on a strictly security level, on a strictly feeling safe and okay in my own world kind of a level, do you feel like you would have been better if you would you have felt better 100 years ago in a world where we had not yet developed the technology to completely erase the entire human existence?
No, but see, that's that kind of technology. I'm having to remember, and you need to remember, we have monkey brains. So really taking in consciously and feeling it emotionally, the ability for one man to push a button and kill everyone is really is a nightmare scenario that I don't think any of us can really get our head around.
So if we can't get our head around it, then it doesn't matter that there was a point of time where that wasn't a thing, and then it suddenly was a thing.
Right. Do you walk around constantly worried about some crazy people blowing up the planet? Do you worry about the sky falling? Right, because you can't. You have to get through life. It is still true. It is still true, though, isn't it, that a single man can end the world right now. It is still true. A single rock could fall from the heavens and kill every one of us. You can't.
And that was true before.
That's always been true.
Always been true.
So, as a human, and we're the most advanced species, so we are doing it better than anyone else, we still can't handle it. I can't handle it. And now, with social media and the drama of politics going on out loud, we have to live under the sky falling every day. Man, my liver is not happy with me dealing with the stress through chemical ingestion. I am not okay. If I'm not okay,
self-medication.
Yeah, if I'm not handling this so well, and you look at the stats of how many people are dying from overdose, how many people are dying from suicide, how many people are dying from not existential, not separate, not being killed by somebody, but for personal suffering. There's more people dying from personal suffering and ending themselves than any other way. There's
Is that per
even with
capita right
war.
now? Is that per
It's going to be
capita?
close. It's gonna. There's still a lot. Maybe I'll rephrase just so I don't have to argue it. There are so many people dying from suffering and self-harm and suicide that it's clear that we're having a species-wide issue with where we are today.
And when you say
Now-
species, are you talking first world only, or is this inclusion of the
I'm
third
including
world and
everywhere.
other, developing?
Everywhere. Developing nations are having even more problems because you can say, oh, they're third world, but there is no third world. There's no world in which modern man hasn't stuck their grubby fingers and pulled some guts out of it.
Yeah, but there's still parts of the world that don't have clean drinking water, don't have access to
Right.
grid,
But still have
you know,
machine guns
electricity.
and cell phones. So you can't...
Priorities,
Right?
man. I don't know what to tell them.
Right.
I don't know what to tell them.
So there's nothing that has prepared a human for trying to struggle to find water and food and yet have communication worldwide, know what the chaos is going on, know what little you don't have compared to what somebody else has, and you have a machine gun in your hand. We're not okay. Monkeys are not okay with this. Right? In general, I don't have to build a case for anything. I can look you right in the eye and go, are you looking at the world and thinking that we're doing okay with the suicide rates, the overdose rates, with all the rates of people, of monkeys killing themselves? Do you think we're okay?
The reason I always ask per capita is only because, at least until recently, and I'm talking about in the third or the first world now, until recently, there was always more people living than there was people dying, especially by their own hand.
Sure.
We were having population growth. Now, that might be
Still are.
reversing at this point to some degree, or slowing down to some degree, but it's still a question of per capita. And while I'll admit that from my own research into the stats, which is not a lot, there has been a little bit of a spike since COVID-19 of people self-ending on
Sure.
a per capita basis. It's been
Yeah.
very, very localized to first world, and it has not actually
No,
pushed
it has
beyond
not.
what the heights where it was in even as recently as the 80s. On a per capita, there are less people. It's self-ending. But only per capita. Now, you could, if you're looking at it just as a function of the number of people and not taking into consideration world population, then yes, there's millions of people self-ending.
Right.
And that's
Right.
horrible and it's a bummer.
The other thing that it's hard to keep in your head and to realize, because everything is meta. Life right now is meta on top of meta on top of meta. So you have people that are now able to see their desperation and see other people that don't have desperation. Some people have it all. They recognize they don't. They're suffering. We as primates understand that separation. Hold.
I'm holding.
The other thing that we don't really keep in our head is that 200 years ago, say 500 years ago, just to keep it safe, 500 years ago, most people were dying from infections. And they died in their 30s. Right? So
Right.
we're suffering in ways that were unimaginable back then because it never happened. People weren't worried about killing themselves. People were worried that the thorn prick that they just got going through the woods is going to kill them. They were worried about demons making them sick and dying before they're worried about their children and demons killing their children by the dozens. So we never got to the point where we can go, gosh, I'm worried about the policies and I'm drinking too much and that's probably going to kill me. We never got to that point. We're dealing with stresses that didn't exist because life got better. But then you have to, I wouldn't want to go back to any other time in history. Know that. So it's better now. But we have suffering that we didn't have back then. And that suffering is causing other issues that we need to address. And we call them first world problems, but we live in the first fucking world. So these are problems that we have now. So we don't have kids now going, I just can't figure out the stick shift in a car. I guess our generation is terrible. No, we don't have to worry about stick shifts anymore. We've moved on.
could we solve the problems? Could we solve that suffering instantly by going back to the third world?
Only because, but only because we would be killing people in different ways before they even got there. So maybe, sorta. I don't know if that's the other thing we could solve. Here's where the red pill thing gets in. All these things are connected, which is, you do a really good job of bringing up topics that are all connected. That's where you get the red pill community, the Christian conservative Project 2025, taking away birth control rights from women, thinking that if they went back in time and just made women fucking behave by the fist of man and the power of God, somehow it will be better and women will be more meek and mild and will appreciate the wonderful things that men have to offer. Never going to work that way. That adds more suffering. The problem is you can't go back in time to back then and fix modern problems. If we ran out of butter, we can't go back in time and go, well, we'll just use the churn again. Sorry, 9 billion people need more butter than a churn can fix. So we have problems, first world problems, that the Bronze Age world can't fucking fix. No, we do not. Which is also my problem with capitalism. Gosh, John Smith, Adam Smith, whatever fucking Smith, invented capitalism way back in the day. That was the only fix, and it can never be better. It can never be proved on. It was not wrong, and it was human, and it works forever, and you blah, 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 blah. No, you can't go back in time to fix modern day problems. You need modern day solutions, modern day understanding, with the knowledge of how it was fucked up back then, and why certain pressures caused people to do certain things, that having more rights and more freedoms cause more problems. Do we take away rights and freedoms to go back to less problems but more death and suffering? I don't think there's no answer. There's no good answer. We're fucked. The struggle is how we're going through this. Do you have a fix? You keep asking me questions that I know there's no answer to. I enjoy getting upset by them because they're thoughts in my head that
I don't want to make you upset, really. Believe me, that's not my goal.
No. There are things about you that make me upset, but talking about this kind of stuff is not one of it.
Well, I'm glad we weren't able to broach the others. Then that's probably a benefit.
I've been purposefully going around it because it's not fair. You are making choices that millions of other people are making, And I, at times,
Are you talking with regards to how I vote, or with regards to how I spend my money?
Mostly the vote, how, and choices that you make, and we'll use the vote because that's the most obvious one, where you vote for money. No matter if you looked around the room and saw everyone else in the room was Nazis, pointing at the same guy you're pointing at, and they're all looking at you going, yeah, money, right? And you're going, yes, money. And you don't take into account the group of Nazis you're standing in. That's what I know you're smart. I know you're more, in fact, I think everybody's more intelligent than me, but I know you are more intelligent and more driven than I am. And it upsets me that you don't look at Nazis supporting the same person, saying it's for the same reason, and don't recognize, again, the monkey fuckery. That's monkeys fucking around, not servicing or making a bad cake. The Nazis that you're ignoring are the bad cake makers who are making bad cakes for the gay Jews.
I don't see them as Nazis.
But the money. You don't. See, I know you don't.
I don't see them as Nazis.
I know you don't.
I don't.
I know you don't.
I don't really see a bunch of people doing what Nazis were doing. I don't equate Trump with Hitler.
It's 2024. Going back in time, it rhymes. It does not repeat. So when I say Nazis, what I'm saying is 2020, like when I say socialism for today, I'm not saying 1945 socialism. I'm talking about socialism we have with robots today. When I say Nazis, we're not back in 1945. I'm not talking about 1945 Nazis. I'm talking about Caucasian, Christian, conservative, Confederate fucking Nazis.
Why would you call them Nazis? Why wouldn't you just call them hard right Christians or
because
Christian
we already
nutbags
have an example of bigots thinking they're superior to everyone else because of the color of their skin, because of their religion, and because of who they support and who they worship. Nazis. Right?
Well,
they had a cult of personality leader that they followed, and the leader
there's still a lot of major
out
differences.
Sure. What should I call them? I've been calling them just Nazis. Confederate Nazis. Can I call them Confederate Nazis? Yeehaw Nazis?
I wouldn't.
Hillbilly Nazis?
I would just call them Christian nutbags.
And you think that's better? Because
there's a distinction to be made.
Please.
The distinction to be made for the most part, and I know that there are some exceptions, and maybe those exceptions you could call Nazis if you really, really wanted to. But for the most part, there is still not a lot of people stepping out and being aggressive with their fists or their guns. There is some of that going on, and I would argue that it's not all coming from the right. But and you raised a good example of the kid, the gay kid who got strung up on the fence by bullies or Nazi bullies, even if you want. That was a real thing.
Right.
But to a large degree, they're not doing what Nazis did. Nazis. Do you remember the movie Cabaret? Liza Minnelli, 1971.
Yes. Had a thing for Liza Minnelli for a long time.
Oh, she's a dear heart. The thing about the movie Cabaret is that it kind of illustrates a sort of change in the zeitgeist. It came out in 1971, as you might recall. It was probably written in the mid to late 60s. So it was literally conceived of, written, and then produced as a movie 25 years after the end of World War II. Okay? Right. And it was a period piece, as you might remember, about Berlin, Germany, just prior to the rise of the Third Reich. So essentially, it's kind of outlining at first how the Nazi Party was very weak, and then later on how the Nazi Party was kind of gaining strength. Okay, and what's interesting about that movie is that it was made from the lens of only 25 years after the war. Now we are, more than 60 years after the war now, right? And
yeah, it must
the
be
filter,
forever. That's a lifetime.
It's not that
There's people alive now.
Right. Yeah.
Right. There are still people alive now.
I know.
From back then.
That can remember.
60 years.
Here's my point.
Not that long.
I want you to set your Wayback Machine for just a second and try to think of when you first heard Holocaust denialism. When was it?
Jesus. I would have to say I mostly started noticing it after 9/11.
Right.
Only because I wasn't really, and that's when social media started getting big, and that's when we started hearing other people's thoughts.
Holocaust.
And I just didn't.
Holocaust denialism wasn't a thing before the early 90s. It wasn't.
No, I don't
even
believe
a
that.
thing.
I don't believe that. I believe it was a thing.
Let me get more specific with you. Not to any degree was it even a thing. Do you remember hearing about the KKK while you were a kid?
Yes.
When was the first time you ever remember actually seeing somebody in real life or on TV dressed in KKK? Jerry Springer?
No. Monty
No, was it
Python?
earlier?
They were in.
Blazing
character
Blazing
bits.
Saddles.
Blazing Saddles.
Yes,
all
but that was lampooning it. That was lampooning it.
It doesn't. What were they lampooning? A movement that we knew existed.
Right.
You can't lampoon something
you
don't know existed.
When was the first time you ever saw serious KKK members, for real, actually doing the KKK thing, and spouting off their absolute garbage? Jerry Springer, am I right?
North. No.
Earlier than that?
No. Yeah.
Earlier?
Way earlier. What? I don't see, again, your experience, it's kind of like my dad going, well, there wasn't racism when I was a kid. We had a black guy working at the train station. There was no racial tensions. Yeah, because you didn't grow up around any black people, and the only black person that was there was a guy having to work at the trains. Yeah, of course you didn't see racism. He was wrong. There were black guys being hung by trees by the KKK by the thousands when he was a kid. He just didn't see it. So suggesting that because I didn't see something, it didn't exist or wasn't real, you're wrong.
I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is that there was a period after World War II where there was a major decline in KKK membership. And this is actually very, you can see it in the records. It hit resurgence in the 90s, about the same time that Holocaust denialism became a thing, a major.
Sure, I'm sure they're
more
linked.
of a thing.
I'm sure that's
more of a thing. The point is
KKK
is that
racism doesn't end after World War II.
I know. But it did. I'm not talking about KKK after World War II.
When
it dipped.
When the Antifa army beat the Nazis, the KKK racists needed to be a little bit quieter because the Antifa army was called the U.S. Army.
Oh, that.
Went after the Nazis. America was Antifa. America was the anti-fascist club that came in and stopped the bullshit from happening. And then we came home and went, aren't we great? And then Nazis started to go, oh, okay, well, I guess we're a little bit better.
So why doesn't Antifa fly the American flag as their flag then?
It's the same reason atheists don't have atheist group or atheist buildings. We don't erect atheist buildings. We just go to the fucking library. We don't have to because that's the normal thing. Being anti-fascist is normal. It's not good to be fascist. Being an atheist isn't a thing. Atheism is only not believing in something. I'm not going to build a building to not collect stamps, as the non-stamp collector would put it.
I don't want to totally belabor this thread too much. I don't want to belabor the thread too much. I would probably suggest that the U.S. Army was not really anti-fa. They were more like anti-crossing your borders with tanks, that kind of a thing. They were like going, okay, this aggression cannot stand, man, and kind of contained Germany back into its borders. And then, of course, when they were doing that, they were able to find and document the concentration camps. But the point about Cabaret is just simply this. When Cabaret came out,
see, that's what your apologists of fuckery and not holding. Maybe it's me. Maybe as someone on the left, I, as a left-wing monkey, am going to remember the fucking fuckery, and I'm not going to tolerate it again. But 2024 and taxes, man. No. Monkey fuckery is monkey fuckery. I'm not excusing any of it.
No, right. This is exactly what I'm talking about in remembering the monkey fuckery, because Cabaret came out at a time when there was no real major Holocaust denial movement. If it had existed at all, it was super. They would have all been wearing tin hats. Those guys would have been the tin
hat wearers. And guess what? They still are.
Right, but
wearing the tin hats. Although now they're red, white, and blue and glitter hats. So maybe some. But they're a lot bigger of a movement. My point is that given enough time, people will forget some of the more detailed parts of history. And what you've got in the movie Cabaret is a little time capsule of where the social zeitgeist was, not just in 1971, but in the period of where Hollywood reflected it, Right. So you got to remember there's a filter there. There's a buffer.
I get that. And it's a musical, so already you're way into Fantasyland. But my point is that it's a time capsule in the zeitgeist with regards to how World War II, or the build-up to it, was remembered. And we are not talking about it and remembering it the same today as we were remembering it and talking about it in 1971. 1971 was closer.
No, it's even more different than that. I'm going to agree with you that we don't think about it the same way. Not only was it closer back then, our technologies, our life experience, the life experience of people born, say, 10 years ago, or they'd be, say, voting today, 18 years ago today, they never experienced the technology. They never had to wait for their coffee to warm up on a pan. They never had to shake the popcorn pan and pop. They had technologies are totally different. So their entire view of reality is from a different perspective. So yes, of course they're going to view it differently.
Anyway, I found watching the movie Cabaret to be quite an interesting review in some of those ideas of what led up to the rise of the Third Reich. And the final summation is in watching that and reviewing it again, I don't see history rhyming in that way this time. I could be wrong, but I don't see it rhyming.
I'm going to be the bigger man and admit that Nazi is not the right term. But everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? I say those fucking Nazis. You're not going, gosh, I don't know who he's referring to. I've never seen one of those in today. There are no such thing as that. You know who I'm talking about.
I do know who you're talking about, but I feel like the term is hyperbolic. And I don't want to water down the term Nazi.
It is hyperbolic, but we're in 2024, and there's Nazi protesters wearing swastikas on their arm, calling themselves Nazis. So you can say hyperbolic.
They've always been around.
Right. So it's not hyperbolic. I am literally pointing to Nazis protesting, and you're going, gosh, maybe we don't really talk about Nazis or think about Nazism the same way.
To be totally
now.
fair, here's the thing, though. Their numbers, the people who are actually willing to put on a swastika, their numbers per capita going down.
Right, no. They put on a red hat now.
No. Those aren't Nazis.
Yes.
Don't water down the term.
They put on a red hat now.
Down.
No. If you have a Nazi that's afraid of being punched, which they should be, but they also want to express all those same beliefs, white supremacy, Christian, all the current Nazi tropes, and they don't want to get punched in the face, and they still want to go to a rally of somebody that's promoting all the same things they agree with, they're going to put on a red cap instead of a black swastika.
What you're
so when I say Nazi, go ahead.
You're suggesting that every one of those people, or at least a good chunk of them, given the right conditions, would be totally willing to shoot, kill, and or put whatever person they deem as being the other into a concentration camp. I just don't think that's accurate.
We're already doing it at the border. We've already done it as a country with the Japanese. No, sure. We've already done it to the Japanese. We've already made concentration.
That was World War II. Right, that was World War II.
Right.
But that wasn't really just nutbaggery, and it wasn't Nazism. You could say that it was.
And we've already had a civil war where we've murdered each other for these exact reasons.
Sure.
The same thing we're talking about is the same thing we already murdered each other for during the Civil War. And the problem is, and here's where it gets uncomfortable. No one ever won or lost the Civil War. They just stopped fighting and put up statues instead and started hoarding weapons. They never went, oh, no, America is right, slavery was wrong, and we should never. That never happened. The Confederacy is alive and well today here. The Confederate flag is being flown more today than it ever was back in the Confederacy days, which was all of 12 years, something like that?
Yeah, but...
So there's more Confederates now. We're still fighting the same fight.
The states that made up the Confederacy weren't allowed to leave the Union. That was the point. The point of the Civil War is that they wanted to leave the Union. They didn't. They were forced to stay in, more or less. Wouldn't you consider that a loss?
Partially, did they stop fighting the war?
They did.
No.
Well, they stopped shooting. There was less shooting.
Did they? Oh, there was less. There you go. There, you're on it. There was less shooting. Oh gosh.
I would say significantly.
And the corporations, the corporations went, oh well, fuck, we can't just openly murder people for making us give up slaves. So we're going to, we're going to arrest them all for marijuana and have them do the same thing, but we're not going to call it slavery. We're going to call it incarceration, and 90% are going to be black, but we're not going to mention that. And the other part are going to be hippies, but who cares about blacks and hippies? That's who we wanted to enslave anyway, right? So it never ended. We're still fighting the same fight back then. We still have Confederates, and I've maybe for you, maybe while I talk to you, I won't call them Nazis because they're not the same. But when I say Nazi, you goddamn know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about. Again, I just feel like...
you could stop right there. So I know who you're talking about. You just don't agree with the word. You don't want to use my pronoun. That's fine.
I don't really want to equate those people with the actual members of the Third Reich. I don't think that serves.
No, they're not the same. I think you're right, actually, and I need to find a better word because they really are idiocracy Nazis. They are the dumbest yeehaw version of it. Racist, white supremacy, Christian bigots that think they're better because of the color of their skin and
how about idiotsies?
Want to go back and idiotsies. Okay, idiotsies. I'll chew on it. So no, I agree that they're not Nazis. Nazis ironically, have a bit more prestige. They have risen to the level of Star Wars villain. So Nazis are slightly more prestigious.
And on that note, I hate to say this, but I got to jam. I'm already late.
Damn it. Okay.
Just
That was good. I hope.
Good.
Yeah, I hope this recording kept. The other recording, man, I'm really. Yeah, that made me bummed out. So maybe this one held it together. Just hold it together, man. Hold it together.
Fingers crossed, dude. I gotta run. Peace, and everybody out there who's ever gets a chance to see this, peace to everybody out there. Namaste, namaste, and all that.
Peace.
Bump the mic.
Peace. Yeah.
Love you, bro. Have a great
Say
night.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.
You too.
I will.